The Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah. Did you ever think about doing something like? Do you get revelations post training? Because one of the things that I always have after like really good hard workouts, first of all, I'm always filled with gratitude.
Yeah.
I'm always like really thankful after long hard workouts. And I've thought about doing this thing called the gratitude series, where I do a podcast like immediately after like really hard workouts.
Nice.
And just talk about my feelings. And I mean, it sounds fucking corny and self-indulgent, but realistically, I think there's some lessons that I learn off of really hard workouts, you know, where it's like at the end of it, you know, when it's all done, first of all, there's always this feeling like 8 out of 10 times I don't want to work out. Really, 8 out of 10. I work out 10 out of 10, but 8 out of 10, I'm like, fuck this.
But you're always happy.
Always. And that's the hump, man.
Yeah.
That fucking hump of just shut that part of your brain up and just start moving. And then once you start moving, you start breaking a sweat. Once you start breaking a sweat, it becomes easier. It starts feeling good. Then you start getting some satisfaction like, ooh, I almost didn't do this today.
Yeah.
Here I am doing it. And, you know, and then sometimes it's fucking, you know, sometimes I'm looking at a 3-mile run, which is nothing for you. But a mile in, I'm like, fuck, 2 more to go. Jesus Christ. And I'm running hills and shit. But when it's over, it's like, yes, I did it.
Yeah.
You know, and I get back to the car and I'm saying hi to people. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Waving to the neighbors. Dog's exhausted. I'm happy. Everybody's pumped. You know, it's like, and I feel good. I feel warm. I feel friendly. I feel loving. I feel, you know, I want to call people and tell them I care about them. It's like, there's moments like post-workout in particular where you just feel really good. And I think life is sometimes about getting over those periods of feeling kind of shitty or low energy or lethargic or unrested or whatever the fuck it is, and just pushing through that because you know the territory. You've been there before, and then developing a habit of being able to do that and being able to know and have faith in the process and understand that this, I know you don't want to do it. Shut the fuck up and go. Just go. And then once you do go, you always feel better.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And I think in my own training, like, I get that from a lot of different workouts, but the one that I really love is like when I get closer to a race, and like what I was saying before, you start dialing things in to be more specific to the activity you're trying to prepare for. I'll do a phase of training where I'm running kind of in an area of about like 150 to 155 beats per minute. So I can go like it's just fast enough where I feel like I'm really kind of like working, but it's also slow enough where I can go for quite a while, so I can like log a really big run. And when I was training for this last race that at the Pettit Center, I had a training cycle where I had a 4-week block where I had 1 deload week, which is just basically a reduction of volume and intensity, and 3 build-up.
Why is it called deload?
Because I'm like reducing volume and intensity. And the other 3 though were build-up ones. So I had like a 130-mile week, right around 130, and then 2 150-mile weeks. And they were just like basically loaded with like kind of just faster than or right about kind of 100-mile intensity. So, you know, I would do, and you can maybe pull it up. I think I have a picture on my Instagram page of I did these key workouts where I'd go to a track and I would just do loops around the track. And it'd be like anywhere between 27 to like 32 miles at that kind of intensity. And you just get into like a flow and a rhythm, and it just, once you kind of get moving, it feels great. And afterwards, you feel great the whole rest of the day, and you just want to kind of go out and do it again. And you almost have to be careful not to do too much at a certain point.
Who structures those? Do you structure them yourself?
Yeah. To kind of go back to what we were talking about in the beginning, like when I structure a plan, ideally I start out with a good base, a good aerobic base, which I typically kind of retain almost year round. I'll take like off season, but I like to follow a principle where I'll let myself kind of lose some of that peak fitness just so it's sustainable, because staying at your peak fitness level is not sustainable. So I let myself get like just out of shape enough so that I'm not always at that level. And then I start kind of building in the structure towards the race itself, which starts with those shorter, faster intervals since they're further away. And then I get closer and closer to the race where I'm doing things that are more specific. So like the next step would be I'd be doing some longer intervals, or kind of like what you consider like an anaerobic threshold type workout, which generally speaking is about like your max intensity if you did like a 60-minute all-out time trial. And then, that's still not specific to 100 miles because I'm out there for 11 hours. So I'm kind of still moving closer to that slower race pace. And it's, it just follows the principle of, hitting all the systems of training like you would in any other periodized endurance plan, but always keeping that compass of the stuff you do for the intensity of the race itself is the type of work you should be doing closest to it. So you're really just optimizing when you're closer to the race itself.
How do you know what your peak fitness is? Like when you say that you can't really maintain the peak fitness, you want to back off a little bit so that you can just keep your training running. How do you know where that is? And how do you know that you cannot expand that? And then...
Yeah, no, that's a great question. That's somewhat subjective too. You can analyze things if you want to go into like heart rate variability type things. But that's a little bit more on the micro level. For me personally, like usually I'll get to a point where like I'll do a race and you can just kind of tell like I'm exhausted from that. And I like to think of it kind of two-folded, where like physical recovery and mental recovery. So if I do a big race and afterwards, like I can't even like bring myself to think of another big training block, I know I need to like let myself kind of get a little bit out of that fitness state, that peak fitness state, and just kind of reset or hit the reset button.
So this is just from years and years of training.
Yeah, there's trial and error, and you make mistakes. I mean, in the past, a lot of times I'll do one. I'll be like, I think I got one more race left for me, and then it goes badly.
Right. Now, what is a long day? Like, say if you're getting prepared for this 100-mile race and you know you're going to have to run for 11 plus hours, what's a long day for you?
Yeah, so the longest run I did for this particular one was 3.5 hours. It was, I think, 32 miles or somewhere in that neighborhood. I usually don't push up much past 5 hours in my own training. If I'm going to do much more than that, I'll just jump in a race. Like the nice thing about Phoenix is there's a race company called Air Vipa, and they put on like 30-some ultra events every year. So it's like,
wow,
you can basically
almost every weekend.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's crazy.
So like the guy who race directed Jamil, he'll let me jump in events when I want to, and so sometimes if I'm going to do something like, say I'm preparing for a 100-mile and I want to get a really long day, like a 7-8 hour session in. I'll just pick like a 100K type event or like, a 50-miler type event and just do that at like, I like to say like, I try not, those are training tools. So I don't want to necessarily race it all out. But if you can kind of keep yourself at like maybe 80% of what you're capable of, you can get that good long stimulus, but not necessarily beat yourself up so much that it takes away from the race you're preparing for.
And so 50 miles would take you, how long would that take you?
It depends on the course. Like I just did a 50-miler actually about a week and a half ago called the JFK 50-mile, and that took me 5 hours and 42 minutes. And that course is you go over the Appalachian mountains for about 60 miles, and you get on a really flat towpath for about a marathon, and then some rolling street hills. So that's not as fast as you can find. You can go on a track.
How much elevation are you going up and down?
That one was about 3,000 feet.
That's a lot.
It is, but the funny thing about ultramarathon, especially in North America, is like, the trails are where there's a lot of interest there. So 3,000 for 50 is actually considered a relatively flat, fast course.
Whoa. That's hilarious.
It's really interesting too, because like I live just about 2 hours south of Flagstaff, and there's a group of ultramarathon guys who train up there, and I got a lot of inspiration from two of them specifically for this last race, the race I did at the Pettit Center. One guy's name is Jim Walmsley, and he's, for my money, probably the best ultramarathoner we have, certainly in North America, if not the world. He's got the course record at the Western States 100, which is the most tested 100-miler in North America. He's got the course record at the Lake Sonoma 50-mile by a pretty big margin. He's actually got the 2 fastest times, but the next closest person to him is like 18 minutes behind or something like that. And then he's also got the course record at the JFK 50-mile, the one I just was mentioning before. And these 3 events are 3 of the most tested courses that we've had. And he's got the course records at all of them, and he can probably go faster on all 3.
Jesus Christ. So,
some of his training is like, he'll do like a 150-mile week sometimes with like 30,000 feet of climbing and descending. And the kicker is one of his training partners, Jared Hazen. So if Jim is the best ultra runner North America has from the male side, Jared Hazen is by far the most underrated. So this guy, he ran the Western States 100 this year. Jim finished first. Jared finished second. Jim broke his course record by running 14 hours and 9 minutes on a course that has 17,000 feet of climbing and 23,000 feet of descent.
You ran 100 miles with that much in 14 hours?
In Western states, it's considered a running course for the most part, too. Like, there's crazier ones that get way worse from a climbing and descending standpoint.
Moab.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to use trekking sticks.
Yeah. So Jim, he had actually broken the course record the year before. And he took, I think it was 16 or 17 minutes off the old course record, ran 14 and a half hours. This next year, he broke his course record with the 14:09. Jared came in second in, I think it was 14:23 or 26, just behind Jim, basically pushing him all day. So any other time, Jared would have won that race, except for that year. And it would have been a huge story for him. And, it just, it was an amazing performance from those two guys. And just watching kind of their training and then their performances, because I was out there crewing and pacing my wife, it was a huge motivator for me when I kind of got into the training build-up for that race at the Pennant Center. So
wow,
it's just funny with ultramarathoning because you have such a variety. I think we talked about this a bit the last time I was on. You can have these 50K races that are there's 50K races that have 10,000 feet of climbing and descending, and then you can have these 6-day events that are on a 400-meter track.
Right, which is much different. Yeah.